Hello, my name is John French, and I'm a District of Squamish councillor interested in affordable housing solutions, diverse housing forms, and the legitimization of tiny homes. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to the basics of tiny homes and the advantages they offer. And at this point, I'd like to acknowledge the Tiny Home Alliance Canada and note that the Alliance is doing great work to educate Canadians on the benefits of tiny homes. I also wish to acknowledge that this video was produced on the traditional territory of the Squamish people. This slide gives you a little glimpse into what's on tap over the next few minutes. We live in a challenging environment in which affordability is a huge issue, and I believe tiny homes are part of the solution to the housing crisis across British Columbia and the rest of North America. I'll be talking a bit about how municipal governments are connected to this issue, touch on affordability, and also legal issues. These are some of the people I've been working with. Pam is doing some really cool stuff from her home on the Sunshine Coast. She has a great team behind her working hard to make affordable tiny homes more accessible to more people. Karen and Patricia are working very hard on Vancouver Island, advocating for tiny homes in their region. Alex weaved creative graphic magic to make this presentation look great. And the foundation of this presentation was created by Dan Fitzpatrick and his team at the Tiny Home Industry Association. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a team to advance a movement. The Tiny Home Alliance is working with the Tiny Home Industry Association, Sunshine Tiny Homes, the Tiny House Advocates of Vancouver Island, and other organizations. What is it going to take to make tiny homes legal? Municipal zoning is important, and having official community plans and zoning bylaws acknowledge these structures is also an important component of legalization. The Canadian Building Code needs to include a definition for tiny homes, and there needs to be building code language that deals with tiny homes on a wheeled frame. According to Census Canada data, our current housing stock doesn't match current and future housing wants and needs. More Canadians are now looking for compact spaces with smart designs and energy-efficient construction as we collectively grapple with affordability and climate change impacts. These statistics point to the housing direction we're living into. And with this page, we see how clear the housing crisis is. Well over half of us are spending more than is recommended each month to keep a roof over our heads. The rate at which housing costs are increasing is staggering. Tiny homes are defined as being 46.5 square meters in size, up to about 2.5 meters wide, and by as much as 12 meters long and 4 meters high. They're affordable, easily built to be energy efficient, most owners value sustainability, and these homes make good use of community resources. In a few upcoming slides, I'll talk more about the small amounts of capital required to build tiny homes. This statement is worth highlighting and really pondering in this housing crisis. Tiny homes are a solution that requires little or no investment in infrastructure and no government subsidies. This is a housing form that's affordable to anyone with some money saved that can be converted into a tangible asset. Once built, the asset will contribute to solving our current housing crisis. As noted in this slide, tiny homes are super malleable. They can be used for many different purposes under many different labels. As I write and record this, in 2021, the word quarantine is super relevant. Will we be bumping up against more challenging viruses in the future? Tiny living spaces could play an important role in solving future self-isolation dilemmas. You might be surprised by who's leading the tiny home movement. Women are the leaders. Most of them are mothers. The last bullet in this slide is encouraging. Research indicates that a growing number of jurisdictions in the United States are creating bylaws to legitimize tiny homes. When we talk about legitimization, we're specifically getting into design standards, legal issues, and issues relating to certification. These things then have trickle-down impacts on financing, insurance, and building permits. We generally have three types of housing construction. In traditional stick-built houses, the materials are usually all delivered to the home site and the structure is assembled there. In the modular scheme, components and sections of the housing unit are built in a factory, then assembled on site. And traditional manufactured homes are built to completion in a factory and moved to a, usually, permanent location as a completed product. Tiny homes are distinct from recreational vehicles and the mobile homes of the past. Tiny homes are not vehicles, and they're not recreational. Tiny homes are designed to be lived in full-time, and they require motorized assistance to move. A key detail to note about traditional mobile homes is the fact that once they're placed at a location, they often don't move. And once they've reached 25 years of age, they become very difficult to move due to structural stability concerns, along with insurance and liability issues. Building codes are important. They help prevent our homes from falling down, aging prematurely, and catching fire. In the United States, there's the American National Standards Institute, and here in Canada, we have the Canadian Standards Association. We also have provincial standards in Canada, and of course, international standards also exist. The CSA A277 standard specifies the procedure for certification of prefabricated buildings and partially or fully enclosed modules and panels for buildings of any occupancy. CSA Z240MH sets standards specific to the manufactured homes we're used to seeing in mobile home parks. A key difference separating many tiny homes from traditional manufactured homes is the fact that tiny homes are built like a conventional home and then often put on a wheeled frame so they can be moved, and moved more than once without insurance hassles and without expensive moving fees. Many tiny homes are built to resemble a typical cottage or bungalow. Cottages and bungalows are accepted housing forms found in almost every community across North America. And as noted earlier, they're definitely not conventional travel trailers or motorhomes. A typical movable tiny home has an appropriate engineered frame, axles, and wheels, along with an undercarriage, and this slide effectively shows the base of a typical tiny home on wheels. The 2018 International Residential Code provides the foundation for building codes around the world. Appendix Q has inclusive language that acknowledges tiny home design challenges or features, including things like narrow stairways, the use of interior ladders, and emergency exits. Now, take a look at this housing unit. The design and construction is completely legal. Our current regulations have no issue with this home. And compare that home to this one, which currently is not legal. There's only one difference. This home is on a wheeled frame. Everything else is exactly the same. There's a common sense gap that prevents more people from owning their own home in the way they want to own that home. This is another example of this same point. The gray house at the top is illegal, and the same home in the image below is legal. By their design, tiny homes offer many environmental advantages, ranging from energy efficiency to permeable pads. Accessory dwelling units, or ADUs for short, are excellent vehicles for densification of neighborhoods dominated by single-family homes built on large lots. Much of the housing stock built from the mid-1900s until recent years fits this scenario. We're already seeing this strategy being used with the construction of expensive carriage houses in many communities. Tiny homes on wheels as ADUs are an affordable and sustainable alternative to conventional ADUs that we're used to seeing constructed in existing neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are dominated by single-family homes constructed on lots large enough to reasonably handle denser living. In addition to using tiny homes as ADUs, densifying existing residential neighborhoods, they can also be used to infill city or town-owned property. They can be used to create pocket communities or villages, workforce housing, or any other form of infill housing. Through a survey completed in 2017, the BC Tiny House Collective found that 81% of people they surveyed indicated they would be interested in living tiny, citing affordability, simple living, and home ownership as motivation. 81%. Tiny homes don't require government subsidies because there's enough private wealth available to finance the construction of the infrastructure needed for tiny homes and the actual living units. The private wealth is primarily in the control of both property owners and owners of tiny homes. An investment of approximately $100,000 can reasonably get many BC property owners set up with a tiny home that can be rented for $1,200 a month and a return on investment within a decade. Another option for property owners is to invest $10,000 to create a tiny home pad, then find a tiny home owner who wants to move their tiny home onto the pad, agreeing to pay approximately $400 a month to rent the pad. The potential return on investment for the property owner is as little as 2 years, and potential government savings and subsidies is in the billions of dollars. Governments currently aren't looking at tiny homes as one potential housing crisis solution because of legal issues and legitimization barriers. Look carefully around towns and cities across BC, and you'll see that people are quietly figuring it out. Tiny homes exist under the radar all over this province because bold citizens are willing to build these housing units and then find places to put them. So, what's next? First, we need to agree on a definition for tiny homes, and then we need to agree on safety standards. We also need local governments to adjust zoning bylaws to recognize tiny homes as a housing form, and construction elements need to be defined. Thanks for watching right to the end. This group would like to work with you to make tiny homes legitimate in our communities. Please reach out to one of us to join the effort. If you have questions, I encourage you to go to the Tiny Home Alliance Canada website, and the Alliance also has a Facebook page full of great information and discussion.